Don't know, I don't know. I'm looking, yeah.
Marc Clarke, that's classic. I love it.
Make sure my daughters stay away from y'all sons. I went to DC, got put on till we all won. Got put on till we all won. I went to DC, got put on till we all won.
Is that delicious beverage?
Duh.
Hey, what's up? It's Marc Clarke. When I interviewed Debbie, I was excited about her book. But when I got her book, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions, I am so impressed and fired up. What I love about this book, it has inspirational quotes, it has affirmations, and it makes you look inside. It makes you look into yourself. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite quotes. Now, you know I'm an only child, so I love this one. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. That right there is so inspirational. And then what I love about it is she gives you the motivation and then she asks you your thoughts. What say you? And then she gives you a space to write down your thoughts. So you could date it. You could put your thoughts, how you were feeling. You can come back and check it out. It's a workbook that you can really use and apply to your life. Look at it. They say big things come in small packages. This is packing a wallop. And it's also, again, just a workbook that really can change your life. And that's why I love it so much. Again, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions by my girl, Debbie Mendez-Taylor. Get it on Amazon. Get it on Amazon today. And welcome to the show. It is Money Making Monday. It is Estate Monday. It is Your Legacy Monday. And today I'm excited because my guest is not only a friend, he's in charge of our massive estate. Now, look, now we don't have a massive estate, but I'm just saying that because I want everybody to start getting into the mindset of thinking about your estate, especially those of us at a particular age, because what you don't want to do is to have to think about it when it's too late. Big mama leaves us, little mama leaves us, pop leaves us, and then you are left with the drama. And best believe, even when you have it planned out, there's going to be drama. I'm not talking about what I think. I'm talking about what I know. And this brother has been a godsend. Thank you, Jesus, that I one day pulled up and just decided, me and Allison had a conversation, and I pulled up and I found this brother on social media, actually. It's crazy enough. And the next thing you know, somebody recommended him, and he's been a part of our life and is a part of our life until the end of our life. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, attorney David C. Harty is in the building. David, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Man, I'm telling you, I'm excited to see your lovely face. David is, David also is on a fitness journey. Heading into COVID, David would have been playing lineman for the Redskins, and now David is a sprinter for the U.S. team.
Thank you, Mark.
David and the wife looking amazing, feeling amazing, and man, my co-host Bootsy Vegas is joining us. He got into some traffic, but David, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you doing? How's the family?
Man, no complaints. Thanks to you.
No thanks to me.
There's a certain
you look great.
You know what I'm talking about. But David, people have a tendency, I think, to not talk about. Again, I guess we don't want to think about our life when it's over. We don't want to think about our kids, and we don't want to think about our funeral arrangements. And one of the things, David, that actually, I'm not going to say breaks my heart, but it does make me saddened, is that my mother did what a lot of people, I think, do, right? She called herself having a plan, but it really was a plan with no plan. As a young child, my mother always told me, hey, honey, if something ever happens to me, these are where the papers are. This is where, my information is, right? So on one hand, she was right, man. She had the right plan, right? And then my mother had a stroke and let a family member live in the house. And then her part two of the plan was in paying rent, that rent I want you to use to take care of my burial, right? That was her plan. Now, of course, David, as you know, if you don't have it written down, if it's not a document, I mean, I just look at it, Dave, and it's almost like a tale of two cities. My mother, who actually had thought about it and had a plan, but unfortunately the plans went crazy because, of course, she passed away without a will. So that's the first blow. The second blow was that house that the family member was renting that had those papers in it. Who knows what happened to that? And then lastly, David, I thought about just the irony of it. You wouldn't believe it, David, but a tree fell on the house. So the family member who was renting the house passed away. So I didn't even have keys to the house. And when I got keys made, the guy got the keys and he said, by the way, are you aware that a tree is falling on the house and destroyed? So I just think about my poor mother who all those plans went up in smoke. Now, but on the other hand, as you know, we reached out to you when Allison's dad was, he was older and basically we sat with you. You told us the best plan of action. And when Dad passed on, everything's laid out. His wishes are laid out. There's a document. There's no probate. There's nothing, no problems. And so, David, I know you've got a billion stories, but What do you think is why do people wait? Why do people not get it together? Why do people almost wait before it's too late before they start talking about their burial plans and what the estate's going to look like?
I think one problem is fear of death. We're going to die. I had someone recently say to me, well, if I die, and I stopped and said, no, when you die. Oh, Mr. Harty, you're so morbid. Well, you're going to die. We are all going to die. We don't know if it's going to be today, next week, or tomorrow. But once we get past that fear and recognize we're going to go, number one, then we get to procrastination. Well, my friend's son who sweeps the floor at the beauty shop told me you don't need to write it down. No. Ignorance, lack of access to information. Two different things. The lack of access is no one's ever addressed the issue with us, so we don't know. It's surprising how many people think you don't need a will, that it just automatically goes to your spouse. I've had a number of cases where they thought that it was a blended family. So suddenly the widow, who's not on the deed and not on the bank accounts, has to share it with the son or daughter-in-law or the children, and they can no longer afford to live in the house. Poor information, that's the ignorance, where we listen to people, and I'm always disheartened by the number of people I see in the media, written, spoken, on the air, who give out bad information. Oh, you don't need a will. What do you mean you don't? Or a will doesn't go through probate. Let me clarify that for everyone right now. The will has to go through probate. Probate's the judicial process where the state makes sure that all creditors get paid. It's not for your benefit, it's for the creditors. So people say, well, then if that's going to happen, why do I need a will as opposed to not having a will? Because the will instructs the court as to how you wish things to be distributed. Where if you don't have it, it goes differently. So the person who has a house, and I'm not putting him on that deed because he might leave me, but they fully intend that they die of natural causes, that spouse gets it. They don't realize that if there are other children involved, it gets divided. That spouse you leave behind might not get it. Well, I don't need the plan. I have plenty of time. I'm sitting at an open event a couple of years ago. Gentleman comes up to me. He can barely move in his 80s. Sir, I like your card because my son needs a will. Well, sir, what about you? Oh, I got plenty of time. If anyone listening has the book that lets you know exactly when you're going to leave this earth, I'd like you to contact me because I have payback for a few people who've done me wrong. And I want to wait till the last day. I don't care. And I talk about the ignorant things that people say. And I'm talking about all type of people, but many times it's ours. I want to die with my last check. You don't know when you're going to die. And what happens is we often outlive our last check. And then we are in these homes where you walk in, the stench is terrible, the care is poor, the staff is not motivated because we didn't plan. Write it down. And no, do not go on the internet and download your own will and try and do it yourself. You know, Mark, as you know, I give many workshops, both in person and now during COVID, virtually. And what I'm finding is more people will attend the virtual workshops than would come to get out the house and come. And also they'll send the links. So I'll give a workshop and there are people in California and Mississippi asking me questions. And I make it clear I'm not barred in those states, but there are general principles that you can go that you need to know. Do you need a will? Yes. But even more important, or as important, you need what we call the living documents, the power of attorney for medical and for health care. If you have your own bank account and you're so proud to say no one's on it, and you become incapacitated, no one can pay your bills. This happens very often. One spouse might be the dominant party. By dominant, I mean economically dominant. And they pay the bills, they become incapacitated, and the other spouse can't get into that account. So you want to have power of attorney. Now, everybody listen, I'm not saying you have to put someone else on your account as a co-owner. Many times that's a big mistake. I'm not, even in a marriage, but in marriage it might be joint. But you can still give them power of attorney and make the account payable on death. And that's what people say, well, if I can make an account payable on death, why do I need a will? Because suppose something happens to the person you made it payable on death to, and you don't change it. It goes to your estate, and then it goes to probate. Probate can take anywhere from 9 months to 4 or 5 years. Actually, it can take longer than 4 or 5 years. I had cases that go on. How do you avoid probate? With a revocable trust. What's a revocable trust? Is that something new? No. It's been around since the Middle Ages. It's a legal fiction where title is held by the trust, and therefore within the trust you designate who is your legatee, who receives it, and it avoids probate. Mark, you brought it up. You know that with the trust that we prepared for your family member or in-law, it was smooth. It also anticipated other hardships. We may all have a Pookie, a Junebug, or a Nene in the family. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Don't sit there saying, what's he talking about? He's supposed to be a lawyer. It's all cultures. There's always that ne'er-do-well who is a sponge and thinks that because the siblings have I'm looking at these things that are popping up, some good questions too. That's what caught my, I'm sorry to divert my attention. But the siblings have gone out, gotten jobs, maybe owned homes, and the ne'er-do-well thinks it's their job to take care. And mama or dad don't want to put that bum out. And they'll come to me and say, well, I need to take care of my son. I had this recently. I can't put him out. He has to have a home. He's 60. He's 60. Is he employable? What do you mean? Does he have a a physical disability? No. Then he got to work. Well, what if he has drugs? We can still have a written estate plan, but we can leave things for him, but not directly to him. That would be the trust. Well, you keep talking about this trust. I never heard of it. Well, that's why I'm talking about it. If you pull up deeds, and we're in the DMV, if you pull up deeds to homes, real property, in certain communities, I'm going to pick on Bethesda, Chevy Chase, etc. You're going to see a lot of homes in the trust. That is a way of not just building wealth, but passing wealth on. And so certain cultural groups that have more knowledge, when one person dies, the next generation becomes wealthier. Unfortunately, in our community, based on lack of access to information and poor information that's given out, we become poor because Big Daddy died 25, 30 years ago, and no one changed the deed. And now a couple of generations are going by. You go to refinance. No one owns it. Or someone wants to sell it. What mistake do we make? We go and add people to our deed. And we say, well, I don't need a will because I added my 3 kids to the deed. No, don't put them on your deed. Now it's theirs. If they get sued or divorced, it's accessible. If you need to sell the house, you need their permission. If you want a reverse mortgage, and I know someone's going to say, oh, reverse mortgages are bad. Not for everyone. They're not bad for everyone. No, you don't put them on your deed in most cases. It's your home. There are other deeds you can do. There's life estate deeds, which is pros and cons. But if you put it in the trust, you keep the step up in basis. Does everybody know what basis is? You paid $100 for the house in 2001. Now it's worth $500. You die, your children inherit the basis. The taxable gain is negated. Now laws change. But right now, your basis becomes the $500. But if you add someone to your deed before you die, their basis drops back. Again, I'm depressed by the lack of information and ignorance that's put out by some talking heads. You don't need it. Well, I don't need a will. I don't need a trust because my estate's only $4 million. We have a saying, certain cultures, $2 million is broke. In our culture, $400,000 is wealthy. I don't need the plan. You do need the plan. I still don't know why I can't write it myself. I heard Susie Orman say, Susie Orman's advice is on spot, but don't use her download will. If you don't know the definition of certain legal terms, stirpes, intestacy, per capita, how are you going to write your own will? I can do it. It costs too much. So the look on Mark's face is priceless. We've gone through this conversation many times. Can you write it yourself? Did you go to law school? Did you walk by a law school? Have you used the bathroom in a law school? Have you gone around back of a law school in the woods and done something you shouldn't have? No. Stay in your lane.
Hold on one second. David C. Harty joining as co-host Bootsy Vegas, who I know Bootsy's going to have a million questions. And speaking of questions on the show today, family, we do have, you can actually call if you have questions.
Oh, wow.
792-3948. But first, I want David to go ahead and keep fleshing it out. And then Bootsy meet David, David meet Bootsy. And so I'm sorry, David, you were talking about people and this thing about law and downloading things on apps and thinking that they can figure it out themselves. And like you said, the funny part is, David, Orman knows the answer to those questions, but she's now just selling her product. So it's funny, but go ahead, David.
Yes, and I'm not here to attack Orman at all, but I'm saying don't download. There is no one size fits all. I had a lady who was so proud of her will that she prepared off of Susie Orman, and she asked me to review it. And I ordinarily would not review a will prepared by a non-attorney, or I'll charge the full price because I know I'm going to rewrite it anyway. But this client was going to do a trust, and I said, read this out loud to yourself. Halfway through, she tore it up because she realized she had signed it. Another classic, this was a relative, said, I'm smart. Oh, boy. All right, here's the template, fill it out. A couple of years later, her friend showed me the will. It said, I state your name, appoint, state your name. It was duly signed, witnessed, and notarized. I tore it up, and I will no longer give a template out. And no, you don't call the lawyer and ask us to review a will prepared by you. Well, I don't want to spend all the money. For a $600 will package, not just for the will, the whole package, this gentleman prepared his own will, and the widow has authorized me to talk about it regularly without not giving the name, but let's just say he didn't anticipate that the will he did was wrong. Flat out Jabberwocky, Alice in Wonderland. So it went, half the state went to his daughter, minus $40,000. Long story short, for one spending $600 to have it done properly, it cost the widow $253,000 to keep the home. Now, who's the fool? Mm-hmm. Well, my minister said, and I told the minister, stay on the pulpit, stay in your lane. You know I'm going to say it, Mark. I'm going to tell him. I have to stay in your lane, and I explained why he was wrong. He interpreted a will. He thought that if the will says, if it goes to A, and then if A is dead, it goes to B. That therefore, when A died, it went to B. No, not if A outlived the testator. Then it goes by their estate. So and don't hire an attorney or talk to an attorney who you are comfortable with, both emotionally, mentally, and culturally. Now, don't jump up and say, he says, oh, you have to hire a black attorney. That's not what I'm saying. Better RBG than Clarence T. Okay? I'm going to say it. I'll put it out there. Yes, I'm a former judge. I don't care. You need someone that can relate to you. Why do I say that? So when you talk about Pookie having a drug problem and Nene with 3 kids by 3 daddies, you're not embarrassed to this person. They don't look down on you. You're comfortable. Many times I interview people and I'll say, do you have a handicapped child? No. And then 40 minutes later, oh, well, my kid gets SSI. Didn't I ask you if your kid was handicapped? They're ashamed. You have to be comfortable telling me that you have 2 or 3 siblings with different, the different daddies. I'm not passing judgment. I'm here. Do not go to an attorney who you tell them what you want and they just do it. Oh, what do you mean? I want done what I want done. No, if you come to me, I'm going to ask you why. And I'm going to tell you why it may not be a good idea. Now, ultimately, you are the client. But the people who add 5, 6, 3 kids to the deed and leave the house at all 3, I guarantee you that is why the house is going to be lost. I came down here in 79. I'm a New Yorker. I left law school in 79, came right down here to work. It was Chocolate City. Not now. Why? Heir property. HEIR. We didn't have estate plans, and we just stayed in the house. Somebody just stayed in the house, paid some of the bills. The roof started leaking. There goes the tax foreclosure, and other groups come in and buy it for pennies on the dollar. And now that house, not too far from Howard, that was a shell for $100,000, is now $1.4 million. I'm not making up these numbers, Mark. You know I'm telling the truth.
Oh my God!
I'm
I
telling
grew up
you
near there. I grew up around that area, so I know.
exactly.
So, David, I'm going to lose your thought, but I just want to just interject because I think, and also it's a chance for us to just pay a little homage to, Dwayne Haskins, who just passed away, right?
Yeah.
And what you said, David, it hit me differently. I guess it's because of our age or whatever. What you just said about people who are in tune to your cultural sensibilities, or just what I notice about the way that they cover his death, but also, David, is that he's a number. They're not, a lot of these sports writers, for those who don't know, Dwayne Haskins, who's from the DC area, a superstar athlete, played with the former Redskins and was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, passed away. He got hit by a truck in the last 2 days or so. And the part that stands out is the lack of humanity from a lot of sports writers who basically, instead of saying anybody, any human being who gets killed is a tragic story, they're leading with, well, he didn't really work out in the, he's a troubled athlete. I mean, who are you talking about? I mean, because sadly, that's how a lot of people look at Black folks.
We're less than human.
And like David said, when you're talking about intimate things involving, now I'm getting emotional.
No, it's true.
Because I've been through it with David. The most precious people in our lives that and the most vulnerable place, you have to deal with somebody that you feel like not only respects you and trusts you, but somebody who has humanity, And again, like David said, just because you happen to be the same color, blood, race, or whatever, doesn't mean you have it. I'm just saying, like David said, it's so important that you get somebody like that. And again, this for whatever reason is passing, but I'll keep it honest. The same thing would happen when the player for the Redskins, when Sean
Taylor. Sean Taylor.
Yes.
Sean Taylor passed away. I saw it too. It just stood out where the human part was left out. They were almost like, almost like another dead Black person. They looked at them as a stat, not as a human being. Mm-hmm. And so as we talk about wills and estates and all these things, this is the most human piece of your life that you're ever going to deal with, the most important aspect. So again, have somebody, and I'm not just saying this to sell David C. Harty, who again is our lawyer, but I thought it was important to say that. And I know, Bootsy, I know you have some thoughts on Dwayne Haskins. Go ahead and interject them here, and then we'll go back to David, and then take some calls if anybody has any questions or anything. You can put them in the chat also, but go ahead, Bootsy. I'm sure you.
Well, with him, I kind of knew him indirectly. Sean, one of my good friends, Sean Springs, is the one that moved him down here from New Jersey. He ended up going to River. He went to Bullets, but he was a young man. I'm not going to say he wasn't introverted, but he was focused and really driven. And as a young person, I just think the pressure of a lot of things got him. And just think, though, the thing that the Commandos released him for was, in the midst of a pandemic, he went to a birthday party and got a picture taken without a mask. Like, that was the one thing that they got mad at him about. It's just going to show you, like what they emphasize and what they focus on. But what they're not talking about is he had a great year in in Pittsburgh backing up, and they just signed him to a new contract. So he had just renewed his contract, and he was going to be competing to take Ben Roethlisberger's spot. Nobody was talking about the great preseason he had. Nobody was talking about the great training camp that he had and what his future was. So A lot of people are broke up about it because when we think about it, he was only 24 years old. And Lord knows if we got judged for stuff that we did at 24, man, if I got judged for stuff I did at 24 years old, they, you know what I mean? So, man, but he was he had just got married. He had a younger sister and his parents, and they were really tight knit. So it is a big loss because he had extended family everywhere. So it's just, man, like I'm just trying to process. It was a lot to process because he was only 24, man.
And so this, I brought that up because, again, David, who's just been amazing, this is the part that for those, again, if you have not made plans, y'all, please.
Right.
Make plans, especially, I know some people say I can't afford it. That's the first thing. And let's keep it real. I mean, some people, maybe you can't, but at least having the conversation, because David actually, so we meet David when Allison's dad was, he was going through health challenges. And so now David is introduced to the family, and it's just crazy in that, in the kind of work that he does. I mean, we're one of thousands, I guess, if not millions over the years. And David sees it. He sees it every day where he meets, was dad, was he capable of making his own decisions and requesting what he wants. So David sits down, gets to know dad, talks about his wishes, talks about what he wants, how he wants things set up. And then, we do the paperwork, we sign all the papers, we do all that process. And then also David's there when we lose dad, and thank God. But again, he's now really almost a part of the family, knowing the wants and needs of this man before he passes, and now helping him fulfill those things as an agent, in a sense, to make sure those things that he wanted were carried out, And so then, of course, we hired David for our estate. And after you go through the process, it really does make you, oh my God, like David said, if we didn't have that thing in place, you're talking about, family members living in a house. You're talking about, if that thing was not settled, that would have been another statistic, like David said. And I know how that looks. And I again think about my mother, Tale of Two Cities. My mother, on the other hand, the house that I grew up in Springfield, Illinois, went for taxes because, as David knows, when you try to just get people to sign, we basically came back, moved in the house to take care of our grandfather. And all my mother asked was, can y'all sign these papers to either sell the house, sell it to me, or whatever. But whatever we got to do, we all have to sign these papers. It didn't happen. So the house went for taxes.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
so then cut to my mother, who again had this cute little house, the house that we moved to, that was in the hood, only worth $30,000. But my mother was so proud that she paid this house off. She was so proud that she paid this house off. But because she did not have a will, because she did leave my cousin to pay, but of course he did quit paying the rent or whatever. Who knows whatever happened, and a damn tree falls on the house. And so this thing that my mom spent her whole life for and planned to pay for her burial, now sits with a tree on top of it, basically messed up again. So I'm just saying, if you have not made that move for your family, go ahead and make it. Look at Prince. He had slave written on his face. He was meticulous in his recordings and all the stuff that he produced. Now your family, his estate, is running it. And he wouldn't want that, the guy that meticulous, but he didn't go that extra step and have it laid out. This is what I want when I pass away, because I'm sure he thought he wasn't going to pass away. Instance after instance. We see, James Brown, who basically in an innovative way, was one of the first artists to do this thing where you basically are selling your future profits from the music, $50 million deal, but in his death, it was in a battle with his kids. You know what I mean? So again, we're talking estates, wills versus trust. So David, people will say, what is the wills versus trust? And I know for a lot of people, it all starts with cost. So can you break down a will versus a trust?
Bootsy had a question. You want me to answer the question, or
no? I would love to wait till after you answer that because I do have a question as well.
Sure.
But go ahead.
A will goes through probate, through judicial process, where the state makes sure your bills are paid. A will or not having a will, either way, it goes through probate. The advantages of a will over not having a will is you've given the court direction and stops some of the battles. In other words, if you are married in a blended family, in other words, one of you has children from another prior relationship, you may want the wife to get the house, but you may not want to put her on the deed because you're afraid she's going to leave you, or vice versa. But with a will, you designate who gets what. Importantly, when you have a will, you indicate who's in charge. You don't put the person in charge just because they're the oldest, because they may be a knucklehead. You put the one who will handle things, who's empathetic. Now, here's why I get in trouble, and I can't wait to get in trouble. You're 75, and I ask you who you want to be your executor or be your power of attorney for medical or finance, and you tell me, Sissy, how old is she? 81. No. Now, I know there's somebody out there 80 saying, I'm smarter than he is, and I'm capable. As you're aging, they're aging. And as you know, it's a stressful process when a loved one dies. And you might be alert today, but as we're aging, it doesn't take much. You pick someone who will be around and hopefully competent. You don't select someone who has far less than you do. What do I mean? If you have a home and a couple $100,000 in the bank or more, you don't pick someone to be in charge who's got 3 or 4 kids, can't make ends meet on minimum wage, because suddenly your assets for your children just accidentally get commingled. You don't prolong selecting someone. Well, I can't decide between my 2 kids. It's been 2 or 3 years. Pick someone, fool. Pick someone. I almost say it, Bootsy, because a lot of things I hear, excuses are just plain stupid. Now, why is he coming on so strong? I represent or handle the estates of many, many ministers. I know the way I am. I don't know why they pick me, but they pick me anyway and send me to their congregation. They give him a warning, but they say, go ahead because he's straightforward. Because you have to be. We cannot hesitate in our community. We don't have time. We need to act. Will goes through probate. A revocable trust avoids probate. They go back to the Middle Ages where the king kept taking property. Everybody said, well, what do we do? Stop the king from taking property. Oh, give it to the church. And they all signed their land to the church. Who took the property then?
That still happens? That still happens, David?
There was a scandal here in Prince George's County a few years ago where a certain church was alleged to have convinced members to sign their deeds over. That's all I'm going to say.
I know.
I don't know if it's true or not. Should you still make a will if you don't own anything? Yes, because you'd be surprised what might happen. Classic example, if I may, Mark. The daughter approached me about the aunt's estate. Said, "Oh, it's a simple will. Just handle it." I don't want to handle it. Okay, how folk are. Took 4.5 years. The mother of the aunt, the niece, had nothing. I said, "Man, you need a will, power of attorney." "No, I don't." Well, lo and behold, somebody else died, and she inherited $200,000, and then she died. So we had 2 estates to probate, and 2 of her heirs. Let's just say they were people of low morals and lower reputations. It was a nightmare. Yes, to answer the question, we should all have an estate plan, especially for the powers of attorney, both medical and financial. You may think you have nothing, but we joke about someone will tell me I'm rich and they have an estate of $400,000. Well, don't get me wrong, people, that's a substantial estate. Someone else will come to me and say, I only have $4 million. They're paranoid.
Right.
The trust, for the assets in the trust, avoid probate. It's harder to challenge. Now, can trust get tied up? Yes, there's always some knucklehead who may go ahead and try and challenge the making of the trust through the certain type of will that goes with the trust. But it's rarely successful. Rarely. So you don't pick someone, you don't pick someone based upon their seniority. You pick someone based, and maybe it won't be a family member. If you know your children are going to fight, don't put them in charge. I'm dealing with a case now where mama had an irrevocable trust. I didn't prepare it, and she put the wrong daughter in charge. I just won the case last week, the first part, where when mama died, the daughter decided she's keeping everything in the trust and the money. Took a few dollars, like $100,000. So now I had it removed.
A few dollars, huh?
A few dollars, yeah, tongue in cheek, yeah.
Yeah. I
Sold
know.
2 houses, and so we had the hearing. The judge totally ruled in our favor, and now we have to evict her. I have another case in D.C. I won't mention specifically, but you need to have a will or a trust, and a trust is better in certain cases. Let me clarify something. Most people are okay with a will package, and I keep saying will package. Will, medical directive, medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney. Durable. Durable means it survives the incompetency. But in the DMV, we do have more wealth. And these homeowners, you need to at least consider a trust. Why would I consider a trust? If you own real property, consider it. If you have special needs children or an nincompoop who can't handle money, consider it. A minor, I can personalize it. Youngest brother died suddenly, leaving a 10-year-old. Mom, our mother died 2 years later, but mom had a trust. So the third of the estate that was going to my now deceased brother goes to his daughter, my niece. But you don't want to give a 12-year-old anything directly. So it's held, her third is held in my mother's trust where I've invested it. It's grown. I'm still able to handle her health, education, maintenance, support, tuition as not needed, but her mother has no control. It avoids probate. At a designated age, she will suddenly have this fair amount of money. Does her mother have any control? No. Had that been a will, a guardian the mother would have been the guardian of the child. And that is definitely what my mother wanted. Nothing against the mother, but we all wanted to go down our branch. Okay.
Wow.
A trust is better for many people. And I'm emphasizing this because I know a number of people on the air with high credentials, national. I know them personally. And I think they're knuckleheads and hard-headed. They won't listen. And what happens? Their clients come to me. I'm the invisible man. Do you have to have a will just for a funeral? No, not just for the funeral. No. You don't know what's going to come in, what may happen. And when you tell me you don't have anything, if I sit down with you and ask you, the odds are you have something. I'm thinking about a lady now getting very angry with me. Before COVID, when I met people in person, now I Zoom. And I asked her to list her assets. When we got to 1.4 million, she got angry at me and told me, I'm not a millionaire. Man, I don't know you. You gave me the numbers.
Well, and so, oh my God. And that's interesting, David, because, okay, look at God. I was in Vegas, and that dynamic of people like denying their wealth, it's an interesting dynamic, right? And maybe you can explain to me why. I was in Vegas. We were at a trade show recently, and it's a gentleman in his mid-60s, Jewish guy in his mid-60s. He was bragging about his wealth at first. He talked about he's going to work 2 more years, and they were going to move to Israel. But then when we started talking in conversation, I said, well, your wealth, do you have a trust? He said, no, I don't have a trust. I have some property that'll take care of it. So it was interesting, like, as he was sending mixed messages, is that, especially at a certain age, is that a factor where people don't want to almost share, what's going on there? Because I'm sure you see, like you said, that lady was kind of doing the same thing.
2 things going on. One is that I'll be blunt. And what they'll tell me is, I'll say, well, do you have an estate plan, a trust? No, I have an LLC. There's a difference. I know what I'm doing. I'm a doctor. Well, go operate on somebody. Let me practice law. 2 is, we often judge people, especially in our community, by their material things. If I tell you how many times you pull up or they pull up and they have a late model luxury car, they're dripping in expensive clothes and jewelry. As I joke, the female has a pocketbook that costs more than the amount of money in their bank account. You know what I'm talking about. $5,000 pocketbooks have no money to
Them
be tied.
Birkin,
20 cents in
them
the bank.
Birkin bags, them
Thank you.
Birkins.
There
Yes,
you go.
sir.
So, and people say, "Oh, he's doing well." How do you know? Well, because they got expensive clothes, and I get to meet them, and I see the net worth. It's pathetic. Pathetic. We do lie. I'm the CEO of a corporation. First thing I do in Maryland is pull up MDSDAT. You've been in bad standing for 6 years. Who are you trying to kid?
Yeah, David did that to me, and I'll never forgive him for that.
No, I didn't.
David, we have a caller. Let me see if this is working. Caller, you there?
I'm here.
Can you guys hear her?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes, we can. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Mark, Mr. David. Good morning, Bootsy. Thank you for this topic.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm not that much older. I don't have to be Mr. either. I can be David.
He's an old man. He's an old man. But go ahead. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Thank you.
That's the respect that I got to put on because I'm from the old school.
Oh, boy. All right, thank you.
So thank you. And let me just say, I wanted to extend my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Dwayne. Am I saying his name right? Haskins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just wanted to, I have a question actually. So I just inherited a great uncle who's 79 years old. God bless him. The man got more wits than I do. I haven't seen him since I was 14 years old. We just recently found him. So I just became his proxy. So I'm in the process of taking care of him, setting up, home health aid services, things of that nature. He wants me to put my name on his bank account, all of his papers and stuff. But I'm a little leery because his hometown friends, they're from North Carolina. They've been looking after him, taking care of him. And I kind of feel like since they are doing this, I just wanted to make sure that he has money or, enough for funeral expenses. And so they're insisting that I put my name on it. But I kind of feel like since they've been looking after him, do you suggest that I just go ahead and do that? Because he has gained my trust. And again, I haven't seen him since I was like maybe 14 years old. And I'm fortunate enough that he has gained my trust, that he trusts me to handle his financial affairs and his paperwork and things of that nature. And if I could just say real quick, I just buried my brother finally in February. He passed at 56 in December, and his ex-wife tried to prevent us from burying him because he did have a will, but he has he has 4 children. One child, the oldest, lives here in New York, different mothers. The other 3 live in Delaware. And the ex-wife didn't know that I still was in contact with his oldest son. So we were able to get the oldest son to fill out paperwork so that he could be a part of getting the paperwork done so that we could hold the funeral. And thank you for your question. You guys have a great day. I'll listen. Thank you.
All right. Look at that. It sounded like she made it sound like a real radio show, didn't she? I'll listen. I'll hang up. Thank you.
Thank you. First off, the ex-wife had no standing, but that's what you're asking. I don't know the location of this uncle. Does this uncle have children? Number one. Is she still there or she's gone?
She's gone. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would, given the age that you just presented, I would make sure that there's no challenge for his competency. And so therefore ask him, explain why.
No children, David.
No children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would first get a statement from the doctor saying he's competent. Then I would speak to local counsel. Uncle has no children. Okay, good. I would have an attorney prepare the documents, not do it myself. Okay? Maybe even a deed. Don't do one of the hunt and peck deeds that we keep doing, and they're all wrong. Have an attorney do the deed correctly. Is he in this area or is he in Carolina? In New York? Then, New York charges a bit more, but they may charge you between $900 and $1,600 for a deed. It's worth it. That way, now the attorney and whoever will test, and the witnesses someone will test to his competency. The attorney shouldn't prepare the deed without meeting him or talking to him. And now you have a safeguard if someone comes along later. The question would be, when you add yourself to his deed, I don't know his financial situation, but if there's a possibility that he may need a reverse mortgage, then you don't want to go on the deed. So I can't give a specific answer without knowing more information. If that's the case, then it might be a life estate deed, whereby when he passes, he okay, when he passes, it's yours without going through probate. The life estate deed. But if he needs, and that's a good answer, that he's broke, because if he's broke, then it increases the possibility that a reverse mortgage may help him if there's equity in the home. So you don't want to put yourself on the deed that will stop that. But for the life estate deed with powers, he still could go ahead and get a reverse mortgage. I know I'm giving this is the answer. I'm sorry, but
no, it's good.
If you're asking for a simple yes or no, I can't do that.
But David, here's another one. I'm curious about this because it made me think. This question here: when you have a trust, is it more difficult to refinance?
Good question. No, the only additional step is the lender will ask for a copy of the trust, and what I tell them, my clients tell me, is they don't need the whole trust. They need the sections, the signature section, the title section, the date section, the witness section, and the section that specifically deals with real estate. In our trust that I prepared, section Article 7.3, it deals with real estate. Clearly, I got it memorized. Is it more difficult? No. Occasionally, a lender will say, "Oh, we want you to take the house property out of the trust to refinance." Okay, and we put it right back in. And they finish. Not a problem.
Wow, it's interesting, David. They say they want you to take it out of the trust to refinance, and then you put it back in the trust.
Yes, and that's legal. It's legal. I don't mention the institution. There's one large institution that for some reason does that. More and more, though, lenders are letting you leave it in the trust anyway. Now, this is a revocable trust. I should clarify, there are many, many different types of trusts. But the first step should be a revocable trust. There's an issue with qualified plans now because you don't put qualified pensions and annuities into a trust, many of them. There's other vehicles. But Congress has passed a Secure Act now, and Secure Act 2, which changes a lot of rules. I won't get too much into that this time. If you bring me back, I will. But I'm available. And no, I'll clarify something. I'm not on this trying to drum up personal business. As Mark knows, every year I threaten to retire. I've been doing this for 4 decades. I know I'm pretty, but I'm old. Back may not crack, but knees do. But I believe it's a mission. And I believe, too, I met someone yesterday at a store because I knew they were challenged to find it. I don't go out, but someone has to serve our community. And often when I'm ready to say no, I think, well, if you don't do it, is anybody else going to do it? I think, Mark, the first time I met you, I went to the house.
Yeah.
And I'll tell the story. Allison walked out and said, "Hi, I'm Allison Seymour." I said, "Hi." And she said, "Oh, I guess you don't recognize me." I didn't know who she was. I was so embarrassed. I know. I came home. My brother said, "You fool. I didn't have Fox on. I didn't know." I love it to death. Everybody made fun of it.
David, I'm okay. So this is just a side note. I'm expecting a windfall, David. I'm expecting a windfall. Yes.
Claim
Jesus.
it, Mark.
Yes.
Claim it, Mark. Claim it.
Yes. So, David, I'm just curious if let's say this check for millions arrives, and I throw it in the trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throwing it in the trust, do I still get taxed on it if it went right into the trust?
Well, yes, the revocable trust does not impact your taxes. That's not the purpose.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay taxes on it.
Because hallelujah, it's coming. I'm hallelujah.
Taxes on that. You coming.
I just want to make sure, David. I wanted to make sure. You the man.
So you're going to pay taxes. We may have additional type trusts. For example, if someone's 10, 20, 30 million and has children, they may create certain types of beneficiary or other irrevocable trusts. The difference in irrevocable is you can't change it and you lose control. And culturally, we're not ready for that many times. Well, we don't have enough to do that.
Can I ask a question? If you don't mind. So, first of all, this is an amazing conversation. It fits a lot of people, even in my perspective. I just want to give you my small story, then tell me what your advice would be. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It came out of nowhere. And the doctors told me to get my affairs in order because we don't know if you're going to make it past April, blase. So I did something that I do regret. I felt like if I was going to be looking at all these papers telling me that I was going to be succumbing, that I would let it seep into my mental. So I kind of ignored it. I've had a few people yell at me about the situation of no matter what the diagnosis is, you got to be able to handle it mentally. What advice would you give to somebody who out of nowhere unexpectedly find they have a possible death illness? What would be the first piece of advice you give them?
And I have this all the time. I get
Mhm.
these calls. Get the paperwork done.
Mhm.
But see, I have been in the hospital, which is a deathbed, people
Mhm.
signing. I'm thinking about one lady I knew for 8 years she procrastinated. Her sister called me. We had it signed on December 16th. On December 26th or 4th, she was gone.
Mm.
I had another man at home hospice. He's signing the will. He didn't make it a week. So that's my first advice. If you care, now sometimes people are in denial. I've had people, why is this happening to me? Why do I have lung
in
cancer?
denial. I
Well,
was in
because you've been
denial.
smoking for 50 years. That's why. But get it done.
Mhm.
I'm not minimizing the need for a bedside manner. But my
Mhm.
advice to you or anyone like that is get the paperwork done. Have that peace. Why would you want to leave that turmoil for your loved ones?
Mhm.
Now, some people just get mad. I don't care. I don't care. Well, I put them in the old ignorant Negro news category. You know, I don't care about, they call themselves religious people, and I throw out Proverbs, a wise man leaves something for his grandchildren. Only scripture I know. But anyway.
David, I'm going to just say that was kind of shaky. That's the most shaky I think I heard you this whole broadcast.
Man.
Right before you started, Dave was like, proverb. No, sir.
It is a problem. I forget which one it is, but
But it's one. Go ahead, Dave.
It is. But my advice is yes, sit down and get it done. I know it's an emotional time, but why add to the turmoil of your loved ones?
Mm-hmm.
Get it done.
Well, no, and Maryland Bootsy is he's a two-time survivor. So yeah, he was diagnosed and he's been. Go ahead, Bootsy. You've been cancer-free for blank years.
I'm going on 3 years now. So I've been cancer free. I beat stage 4 cancer twice in 2 years, and I survived a full body stem cell transplant. So I have been great.
Come on, Bootsy Vegas.
I have been great, and I'm back with the drip. Black don't crack when you plant-based, alkaline, and vegan, sir. So
Okay, and got his teeth done too, y'all. Bootsy got teeth, ladies. Ladies, be careful.
Too much sauce around here, Dave.
David's with Bootsy and I. Oh, other people may not call us cute, but we call ourselves cute all the time.
There you go.
Hey, but look here though. Hey, I tell everybody this. I may not be cute, but I definitely got cute features.
So, David, again, man, it's interesting. People, this is one of our most viewed shows. So, David, you'll be doing a regular feature every week now. No
problem, Mark. I got to spread the word. It's my mission.
But David, as we wrap things up, how can people reach you, and then give us some parting words as we wrap things up?
Yeah, I need to reach you too, Dave. So don't you worry about it. I'm your new nephew, Dave. So don't even worry about it.
I have so many nieces. I guess a nephew will do. Everybody's my niece. No, you're not.
Wait, let me tell you something.
Nephews.
It doesn't matter, niece or nephew. David still charges the same price. So don't.
Oh yeah. Everybody's family. I got a call recently. I said I'm not taking any more probate except for family. Well, I'm family. How are you family? Well, I'm so and so's wife's cousin's girlfriend. You're not family. Serious conversation. Mark, I have no problem with people. My email is hartylaw.dh@gmail.com. Harty with a T. I have no problem.
One more time, David. Harty Law.
HARTYLAW.DH@gmail.com. I'm barred in Maryland in the district. I can help people in Virginia with an associate, but David, I'm your niece too. Spill my name right in the will, please. My wife of 30-something years is going to have something to say about that. And 2 kids. But I take calls from all over the country and will assist you in wherever you are in most states, calling someone. I recognize that in certain areas, the good old boys don't always treat us right. So I do intervene. What was the other question?
Any parting words?
Look, get it done, people. Stop with all the ignorance. Stop with the procrastination. Get it done. Find someone. Doesn't have to be me. someone reputable to at least have a conversation. Open up to Wilder because we're not cheap, but we're cheaper than. There's a wide variance. I don't want no smoke. No, she says no smoke. She's spitting fire. Her investment. Get something done. What happens all the time, Mark, I may speak in front of a group of 100. And in the first 3 weeks, 2 may come forward and get it done. 6 years later, someone will call me and say, so-and-so heard you speak and recommended me. And I said, well, how did they know it was me? Oh, because you talked about Pookie and Junebug. Yeah, that was me.
You got me. You got me on that one. I know plenty of Pookies and Junebugs. Yeah, you got me.
We all do. So whatever happens, get something done. Stop procrastinating. Bootsy, get yours done ASAP because none of us are promised tomorrow. And COVID, I am buried in COVID cases. You know, it takes too many people away. Fast.
I thought about, David, I told you this when my mother was alive. My mother, you know, would not, you know, every time I take her to the bank, and it's so funny, isn't that funny now? That's something that, you know, old people, that's how it's been it's changing now, but taking the grandma to the bank or mom to the bank. So I'm taking mom to the bank. She's moving, you know, slow as a snail, of course. And the bank people always come over. Miss Johnson, do you want me to put your son on your account? No, I do not. Now, the funny part was, you know, mom didn't have enough money to cover her expenses, but mom was not letting me get on that account. And like David said, the thing that's crazy is when they pass away, those accounts, they slam like the doors of, you know, boom, you ain't getting, you know, you're not getting it. Everything gets locked up and you can't maneuver it, you know. And I look back on that, I'm like, oh my goodness. And again, versus us having the trust for Allison's family and now for us, it just is smooth like butter. It's no problem. It's just so much easier. And then lastly, something that I thought about, all of us, we had to get to a certain age. And you know, when you think about what do you want to happen when you're not here, and things that you may not even think that you value as much, they become like a statement or something that can be special. You know, that ring or that bracelet that you wear, that watch. It doesn't even have to be an expensive watch, but just somebody. Maybe there's somebody in your family, a daughter or somebody you want to have it. These little things that you don't ever think about. Like I was thinking, my mother's record collection, and like you said, David, she didn't have a lot, but all that stuff in that house, those valuable pictures, the pictures of my grandfather who was a printer, and Ralph Bunch coming to the back of the house at the shop in Springfield and all that kind of stuff, that all died in the house. I don't know. I have no idea what happened to that. You know, my mother's record collection, you know, from Count Basie to Gene Ammons, all those records on Saturdays. David, you know about that when on Saturdays when you had to clean up the house and the records are blazing, all that stuff, man, locked in the house. And I'm like, man, I wish, and that's what you don't want to have to say. I wish I would have blah, 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 blah. So just, you know, again, even if it's a conversation, like David said, just get it done. And thanks so much. Marilyn I had the blessing to meet Marilyn, but Marilyn survived 9/11. And, you know, when I met her in New York, just think about that. That could have just been, you know, a matter of fact, that 9/11 moment impacted my life because it was the first time I was in my probably early 40s. And I was just thinking, so everybody's heading to work that day, those thousands of people who perished, and somebody got up to get a cup of coffee, and that was it. And that's how quick it all could be gone, right? Dwayne Haskins.
That's, you know, I have two sons, 27 and 31, and that hit hard. And the comment by Gil Brandt, if I see that 93-year-old man, I'm going to smack him. That was unacceptable. Unacceptable. The lack of humanity shown to us, whether we're getting attacked by police or when my father was killed, a Caucasian attorney in the office told a black female, oh, it made him seem more normal, more human. What do you mean? Well, you had a father. Was I hatched? Come on, people. I'm not minimizing the need for us to rehabilitate and protect, improve our own community. And this is part of it. Let's plan and have a lawyer. Maybe if you have a financial advisor, a tax preparer, let's get it done. Stop procrastinating, because all we want to whine about later is, I didn't know that. Yeah, you did know. You were told, you didn't listen. Get it done. Get it done. I'm looking at Bootsy based on his story. Get it done. It doesn't.
Yes,
it's not hard, man.
Yes, sir, Uncle Dave. Yes, sir, Uncle Dave.
That's it. And that's what I want to hear. Now, you see,
Yes,
if Mark
sir,
dressed
Dave.
appropriately, I told Mark, unless I have to go into court, I'm not putting a suit and tie on. And I tell people in my workshops, if you tuned in looking for a serious attorney in a black shirt, white shirt and tie, turn to another channel. Because after 4 decades, I don't care. You're paying for this, not for the tie. I've been at this too long.
I dressed up because this show's about money, and I'm expecting a windfall to happen. I just want to make sure I'm dressed appropriately. David, I love you. Bootsy, I love you. Everybody watching this, of course, we love you. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe whenever you're watching this live or later on, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, our artist, preacher kid Bootsy, PJ Morton joins us tomorrow.
Man, I can't wait for this one.
You know what I'm saying? We start the week off with a superstar, David C. Harty, and it continues tomorrow with a superstar, PJ, Grammy Award-winning Morton. So have a great one. Take care, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody be safe. Nice to meet you, Bootsy.
Yeah.
Can't see, my eyes just don't know. I don't know. I'm looking, yeah.
Marc Clarke, that's classic. I love it.